Hey there, School of Tomorrow students. I'm going to make this a short one. It's kind of an aha, it's an insight. It relates to Martian math and how we're going to have all these electric vehicles, have them already. And you can see from my viewing history, I'm like looking into the batteries again, about the trucker exchange program from the last video. Not all these trucks are going to be electric. I'm not claiming that, but knowing how an internal combustion engine works has kind of been a signature of what it is kids want to know about. I'm going to talk about Jordan Peterson for a second. Just use the let's see. Before I do that though, let me get to the album in question. So if you go to Flickr and you can go here through World Game resources on the side, and we're going to search up the album Martian Math because again, I want to drill home the point that it's really a curriculum about electrodynamics or, you know, how do batteries work, how do generators work, and how do electric car motors work, all that kind of stuff. So I'm in the albums section and I'm typing Martian Math. And I have videos about this, and one in particular where I focus on the DIY type projects you can find on YouTube, where an individual will like dam a small stream and build a small hydropower plant, really small, but it works, right? And he even makes his own like generator, right? So let's see, that's not the one I want to go to, but this is interesting. It's called Martian Math Class. And this is when Sam Lanahan and I brought our own kids together and just said, hey, kids, you're not going to get this in school really, but here's what Sam and I are into. Like the two dads passing the torch to their kids. That happens. That was quite a while back, actually. But what I wanted to talk about is the storyboards. By the way, shout out to Keep Portland Weird, Keep Coding Weird. I'm pointing at the t shirt here. You could say it's a commercial. This is an O'Reilly shirt, and I used to work for O'Reilly Media. So here we are, and that's another thing kids want to know the internals of that hasn't changed. The Jordan Peterson part is they're always saying on his shows, boys care more about things, girls care more about people. And of course, if you're thinking if that's cultural and that's a problem, can we make boys or encourage boys to care more about people but not forget about things and vice versa with the women? Care more about things, please? You could say that sounds patronizing though. I think of computer science as already something women have cared deeply about. And if you've seen, you know, that movie about the women at NASA and so on, I mean, women already have put man on the moon, you could say. So to say women aren't engineers is wrong. He's talking about generic, both stereotypes and tendencies, right? But what I'm saying is, okay, take the stereotype of someone who cares about things. What is it that they know about? Well, they know how an internal combustion engine works. That's been the signature of, you could say, boyhood, manhood in the United States for a lot of people, that they could, quote, take their car apart and put it together. Now, that hasn't been true for a long time because we've had generations now of car that people have, to avoid the warranty if you open the hood, basically. It's not quite that bad, but you know what I mean. But nevertheless, we're moving away from internal combustion in a big way. And how is it that we're going to have people who understand the batteries and the technology? And this is the slide I'm looking for. And those that don't, right? There's going to be a new, I won't call it a digital divide, but I might call it an electromotive force divide or something. But computers are electronic too, or electric. In other words, electricity is not becoming less important. It's not like we're all going to now care about quantum computers and stop caring about ordinary computers or something. It's not going to go that fast, right? So for many more lifetimes, the electronics sophistication of your average 12-year-olds is set to increase, I would say, if we play our cards right. And all I ask with the current curriculum here in terms of synergetics is maybe a tetrahedron that measures an energy quantity, something like that. Otherwise, we're leaving the curriculum basically in the hands of people who teach it now and just sneaking in really not that much time demand. Some of this Fuller Bucky geometry that I'm talking about all the time. You might think because in this channel, I talk about this stuff all the time. By the way, here's that synergetics constant I was talking about 2 videos back, where we were looking at the relationship between a tetrahedron with edges D for diameter, but also D for double. Diameter in the sense that there's a unit radius sphere at the corner of each one of these. I could actually pop. Anyway, all that math is kind of summarized with the Tetra book here. And I just wanted to pause and remind you, there's that square root of 9/8 or second root of 9/8, whatever. Pause for a moment. By the way, this is a slightly, maybe a little misleading in that, of course, this longer edge of the right tetrahedron is not D, right? It's actually longer than that. If this right triangle, if we stand this, okay, this is a page that flops back and forth, a single page on a book with triangular book covers with a hinge and one page that wags back and forth. And if it stops completely vertically in the vertical position, you've got 2 complementary right tetrahedra, all edges D for double or diameter, except for this hypotenuse, you could call it, the long edge. And it turns out the volume of this right tetrahedron is the same as that of a cube with edges R, okay? So you could say these two represent IV or Cartesian XYZ unit volume, but then if we go down to the regular tetrahedron position with all edges D, and truly all edges D this time, then that's an alternative unit of volume that we use in Synergetics and have the math to go with that. Because this channel, I'm like one of the only people out of 8 billion who promulgates this stuff fluently. And so on my channel, since this is what I've gotten pretty good at, it's pretty much all that I do. So you might think that therefore if we went to one of my schools with the electric ATVs and all this stuff, that it would be like 98% Bucky and only 2% everything else. But I think that's wrong. I think I'm compensating for how little Bucky out there exists and talking about that almost incessantly. And in the real world, once we get the curriculum up and running, it'll just fit in naturally and in a pretty unobtrusively, I think, at first. And by at first, I mean, you know, until a lot of people do more research, I'm not going to be a big challenge to the 8 billion people, let's put it that way. You know, there's not very much of us, many of us, and we're not trying to, like, dominate the world in that sense, okay? So I'm going to do something I almost never do, which is bring in Camtasia, and I'll just quickly flip through, give the flavor of what's been going on with this festivities, I call it, this festival. We're starting this new design science decade, and I'm not sure in what form it's going to be actually. Let's see, I'm not going to play sound. How do I turn off sound? I never do that. Over here, probably. Now, if I run this, no, the sound will play. Well, is that a problem? Yeah, I just wanted to show that the Fuller Institute has kind of a new face, and I think it's a good one that you'll like, in that, I don't know, I can't say that generically, you will like, because who are you, right? But it's very performance-oriented, performance arts, Now that's Jimmy Dore, something else. I just had those mixed together. But artistically, I think they're going in a very good direction, and I have no problem with it. It totally goes opposite the stereotype of engineer as slide rule pocket protector kind of thing. And I think when you think of Bucky Fuller, if you're using old lenses, you're kind of thinking kind of like MIT, short crew cut, kind of a Cold Warrior engineer. I mean, that stereotype is out there around Bucky. I want to assure you that it doesn't have to feel that way. Okay. The BFI is a whole different artistic endeavor. I hope that worked out, showing a little bit of Camtasia itself. All right. Um, so that's my insight, basically. Let's unify. Let's sneak in the concentric hierarchy. It's not going to be that painful, and thereby recover all of the Fuller futurism and see how that goes. I'm not saying I don't know if that will trigger Old Man River City, for example. Of course, I have my hopes. But let's bring the concentric hierarchy back with an emphasis on electrodynamics and do-it-yourself projects, especially around electrical vehicles and how they work, right? How vehicles in general work, but and lots of hands-on first-person experiences, which is why that electric ATV idea is a good idea because we'll also be repairing them and dissecting them in class, you could say. It's like all the technology that we use in this quote horse camp, we should understand intimately. We're not taking a consumer's view of these toys. We're taking a maintenance and research view of these toys. All right, talk to you soon.